Jazzcast Pros.
Every generation has had its defining era. The industrial era powered progress but left workers exhausted. We had the digital era, which rewired communication and gave us connection, but flooded us with distraction. And now we stand on the edge of a new chapter, the sleep era, which emerges as the answer, restoring our greatest resource and reclaiming sleep as the fuel for health, creativity, and power. This isn't about bedtime routines or trendy supplements. It's about a cultural shift where we stop glorifying exhaustion and start recognizing it as the most radical, restorative, and revolutionary thing that we can do. Because the future will not be built on burnout. It will be built by those who are finally awake, alert, and unstoppable. Welcome to the Doze Podcast. I'm your host, Soda Kuczkowski. I'm a sleep health educator and certified sleep coach with 2 decades in the world of sleep medicine and sleep health. I've worked with individuals, families, organizations, and even entire communities to help shift the way we think about and prioritize our sleep. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this, that sleep isn't just personal, it's cultural, it's economic, it's the hidden thread that holds our health, our creativity, and our performance together. Which is why today I want to talk about something bigger than wind down routines or the latest in sleep tech. I'm talking about stepping into a new era, an era where sleep is no longer dismissed as a weakness, but reclaimed as strength. This episode is about the future of sleep. Now let's rewind for a minute. For decades, the story that you've been told is that success means sacrifice, and the first thing sacrificed is your sleep. Hustle culture trained us to brag about running on fumes as if exhaustion was proof of importance. But here's the truth. Burnout wasn't an accident. It was built into the architecture of modern work. And now we're finally waking up to the cost. We're in a moment where sleep is no longer dismissed as downtime. The Center for Disease Control has called insufficient sleep a public health epidemic. The global economy loses hundreds of billions each year due to fatigue, and more people are starting to wear their sleep scores like badges of honor the way we once counted steps. And this shift signifies something bigger, that sleep is no longer a private matter. It goes beyond your bedtime, beyond your bedroom. It's about the very systems we live in. Sleep shapes culture, drives economies, and even influences policy. It's bigger than personal health. It's a collective shift, and it's redefining the way we live. So then, how do we live differently in this era? How do we embrace this shift, not just as a headline, but as a lifestyle? Well, first, it starts by taking a hard look at our lives and how we live, work, and play. And to do that, we have to start at home. Turning your space into a rest sanctuary by assessing 4 core areas. You want to begin by taking an audit of light exposure. And you want to replace any harsh white light bulbs with warm spectrum lighting in the evening. Think about adding blackout curtains or dimmable smart lights to mimic the sunset. And I'll drop a link to our line of Amber products, including some of my favorite tried and true tools like our blue blockers, light bulb, and night lights below. The next is noise mapping. You need to notice where unwanted sounds creep in, whether it's in hallways, from appliances, outside traffic, and you want to tackle it with door sweeps, sound machines, or insulation hacks. You know, we often underestimate those external factors that are causing us to wake up at night and compromising the quality of our sleep. And I encourage you to check out the Sleep Space app. You know, I've recently jumped back into using it for my own sleep as we have trains that run throughout the night in the area where I live. They're in full force. So without this application, I myself am waking up repeatedly throughout the night. The next is diving into temperature zones. You know, you want to identify any hot spots in your house and you want to fix the airflow. If your bedroom tends to run warmer, you want to prioritize cooling investments there first. And you want to think about adding plants that can help regulate temperature, humidity, and air quality. And some of my favorites for that are the snake, spider, or peace lily plants. And then last, look at sleep ritual stations. You want to have a dedicated corner for calming activities. For instance, having a chair where you can read before bed, or having a place where you stretch. Or perhaps it's journaling or using a gratitude journal, but you just want to make sure that it's separate from your bed, because it sets mental boundaries for winding down. In the sleep era, your home should communicate one message: you're safe to rest here. That means intentionally designing spaces to cue restoration the way a gym cues activity. Next, you want to move your focus into the space in which you work and to do a workplace evaluation. We want to build sleep-conscious organizations. Now, I'm sure everyone is familiar with workplace meetings, right? And I would encourage you to do an audit of them. Are they being held early in the morning, or are there late evening calls that perhaps might be sabotaging your personal time? You want to suggest moving non-critical meetings out of circadian dead zones. That's that afternoon slump between 1 and 3 p.m. Or just limit unnecessary meetings altogether. There are so many applications now that are available for communications. Meetings can be draining, especially when they could have been an email, right? As a rule, I personally don't take meetings now without an agenda or a direct purpose because I've drawn a hard boundary on how my time is utilized. When we're assessing the physical workspace, we have to again address lighting, right? You want to assess workplace lighting. Many tend to have harsh lights, right? So a great place to start is to equip teams who spend hours on screens or brightly lit environments with yellow blue blocker glasses. I personally use mine to cut down on headaches, and they're a great tool also for driving home after the sun is set, as there's so many LED street and headlights. And for workspaces with shift workers, I would look into getting a light therapy lamp. You want to place it in break rooms for a mid-morning energy anchor or for shift transitions. Create quiet spaces. I'm on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, they've already incorporated things like nap pods. But here, you can incorporate recovery rooms with calming sensory cues. This is where also having something like a diffuser in the office can be beneficial as a natural energy and productivity boost. I personally use peppermint and rosemary. The combination of the two are great for focus and really help keep me on task so I get more done. And using rest as a key performance indicator. You want to reward sustainable performance, not all-nighters. Workplaces who prioritize employee wellness are healthier, more productive, and have a better company culture. And of course, whether you are in a leadership role or not, you want to make sure that you're modeling behavior. And I want to say, anyone can be a leader because leadership is contagious. When you protect your sleep, you give others permission to do the same. But if you are someone that is in management, if you're sending emails at 2 a.m., you're sending the wrong signal. You want to set boundaries because everyone will be happier all around, and it gives space needed to regroup and retackle problems with a fresh perspective. The goal is to reduce circadian strain, normalize recovery, and improve daytime alertness sustainably. Workplaces that ignore sleep are going to lose talent to those that embrace it. Just as gyms become workplace perks, sleep culture will become the next frontier of retention. And of course, when we're talking about workplaces, you want to look into implementing team building rituals and use rest as cultural glue. Begin a meeting with quiet breathing or reflection instead of rushing straight in. This is where, you could again use that diffuser for a 2-minute restorative pause. And let the scent and softness cue communal calm and focus. And have a collective downtime. Host team recovery hours with no meetings, no slack, no pressure, just time to catch up, reset, or to step away. With that being said, a rest debrief. After a big project or a deadline, normalize taking a shared recovery day instead of moving immediately to the next sprint. Teams thrive when recovery is built into rhythm. Making rest communal breaks down the stigma of laziness, and it replaces it with being strategic. Another thing is to promote it within community groups. You want to promote socializing around rest, not exhaustion. Think about creating rest collectives. This is where you organize meditation circles where rest is the shared purpose, or screen-free socials. I do not like when I get together and people are on their phones, right? So incorporating things like book clubs or stargazing nights or evenings walking without devices, community bonding without overstimulation or distraction. A big one would be, I've heard the example of like putting all your phones in a basket when you're at the table eating, whether with your family or with your friends, because we've really gotten away from communication that way because we feel like we always have to be checking it. So put it to the side. And then look at public quiet spaces. Advocate for more parks, libraries, and safe, restful areas in cities where people can pause without cost or consumption. We live in a culture where communities are built around always being on or doing. Whether it's during work hours, right? We're always checking our emails. We're always checking our phone. Or, we always feel like we have to be entertained. We're watching TV or we're out. We feel like we always have to be on doing. But imagine communities built around rest where togetherness feels restorative, not draining. You need those moments of pause. And then last, to bring it back full circle, it's about creating family practices and shaping sleep as a shared value. And this can look like creating family sleep agreements. Just as families set rules around chores, create agreements around respecting sleep, whether it be quiet hours, lights out policies, or tech-free bedrooms. Look at bedtime rituals as family bonding, whether it is incorporating things like storytelling, gratitude circles, or stretching together before bed. This reframes sleep prep as connection time, not punishment. And of course, we want to make sure that we're celebrating sleep milestones. Acknowledge kids who protect their sleep like you would academic wins. Celebrate when family members advocate for their own sleep. And rest needs to be modeled, right? We want rest role modeling behavior. Parents who visibly protect their own sleep sends a powerful message that sleep isn't just for children, it's for everyone. Families that prioritize sleep raise generations who see sleep as health, not weakness. This is how the sleep era becomes legacy, not trend. What you need to remember is that embracing the sleep era isn't about one bedtime hack. It's a whole life framework. It's about homes designed as sanctuaries, workplaces measured by sustainable output, teams that embed recovery into culture, communities that gather around rest instead of depletion, and families that celebrate sleep as a shared value. Can you imagine workplaces where nap pods are standard, not a novelty? Healthcare that prescribes rest before pills, and families who treat bedtime as sacred, not optional. That's the promise of the sleep era, not a world where we squeeze sleep into productivity, but a world where productivity flows from being rested. A time when we reclaim sleep as the foundation of our health, creativity, and power. This era is not about doing less, it's about doing better, because you're finally giving your body and brain what they were designed to have. So here's my challenge to you. This week, I want you to run your own sleep era audit. I want you to evaluate one area of your life, whether it be your home, your workplace, your team, your community, or your family, and I want you to ask, does this environment protect my sleep or erode it? Then I want you to make one small intentional change and share it with someone else. Invite them to join you. That's how we shift from a culture of burnout into a culture of thriving. And if you want to take it a step further, I would recommend to choose a tool from some of those that I've shared, and I'll drop a link for them below. Just know that tools aren't the revolution. Your mindset is. Tools can help make the shift possible, whether that's a warm light, soothing scent, sound, or a circadian-aware tech, but it should always be to amplify your intention to protect your sleep. Start small, try it for the full week, and vocalize it, state it. Say, I'm building my sleep era, and this is my foundation. Build your sleep ecosystem and let sleep revolutionize your rhythm. Because the more we normalize the importance of sleep, the faster this era becomes not just a possibility, but our reality. Thank you for joining me today on the Doze Podcast. Remember, the future is not going to be built on burnout. It will be built on those who are fully rested and ready. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with your circle on social media and tag us at Start With Sleep and thedoze.co. Until next week, sleep is not the pause in your story. It's the power source for everything still to come. Sleep well.